Today we're going to take a look at pipes and redirection in Unix, which are very important for the effective use of the Unix utilities. And so we'll start out with looking at pipes, but before we do, go ahead and start your script session for this video. And once you do that, we're going to run a command, PS, which PS shows us the processes that are running on the system. So first I'm just going to run the command by itself to show you what it does. PS shows me there's a process with a process ID of 63122 that is bash is the command, and a process ID of 63132, which is PS as the command. Your process IDs are going to be different. Each process that is running gets a unique ID saved to it, and so it just the system sort of counts up the processes. With a few extra parameters, the PS command will show us a lot more information. So I'm going to do PS space AUX. And this is going to give me the processes that are running from all of the users, and it's going to give me a lot more information about them. So obviously down here at the bottom you can see I have a handful of things that are running by Jeremy as the user. There's a lot of things that are running with root as the user. If you happen to run this command while other people are logged into the system, you may see additional users beyond that. But it goes up a little bit more than I can see on a single page. And so the first thing we're going to do with our pipes is run this command again, PS space AUX space, and then we're going to do a vertical bar, which is right above the backslash, which is probably between the backspace and enter keys on your keyboard. It's the shift version of that. So it's a vertical bar, and I'm going to say send that into the more command, which the more just displays text to the screen one page at a time. So now, instead of pushing everything out to the screen all at once, and my terminal is not quite wide enough, so some of these first items are wrapping around the two lines, which makes them a little bit hard to read. I apologize for that. But now I can look through the results of this command one page at a time, because I sent the output of the command, instead of sending it directly to the screen, I sent it as input to the more command. So I'm going to go ahead and clear the screen. That's the basic idea of what a pipe does, is it takes the output of one command and sends it as the input to another command. Sending it to more is one obvious use of this, but we're going to look at a couple others. PS space AUX space our pipe character. And now I'm going to say grep, which stands for it's a regular expression processor. And I'm going to grep for my name. You might want to grep for yours. So PS space AUX and then this vertical bar grep Jeremy. And now it's going to show me all of the lines that have the word Jeremy somewhere in there. So you can see now it shows me all of the processes that begin with my account. It also shows me all the processes that there's the root one that is actually dealing with the root process that is handling the other end of my SSH session into the Mercury server. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this. So grep is just a find utility. It's just searching for specific text. In fact, let's do this again with another example. PSAUX space vertical bar grep. And I'm going to do script. So now this will show me all the processes that deal with the script command that was running, that's recording our video. So this is actually a really handy way when you're looking for a process to kill. There's another command called kill that lets you terminate a process. You usually have to know the process ID to do that. And PS AUX piped into grep is a great way to find the process ID of a process that you would like to kill. There are a lot of other things that we can do with grep. Regular expressions are very powerful. We're not going to look at all of that right now. Right now we're going to focus on the pipes and the redirection. So that's a pipe. Is I can send the output of one command to the input of another command. So now I'm going to show you that we can do this actually with multiple pipes at the same time. So I'm going to clear the screen, ps space aux space that vertical bar space grep root space the vertical bar and then more. And now I'm going to see all of the processes that are running with the root user. And I'm going to see them one page at a time. So that is just one way to combine utilities. So again, here's that command that I run. I'll pull it back up on the screen. ps space aux space vertical bar space grep space root space vertical bar space more. So I'm just tying multiple commands together with pipes. I'm going to take off that more section there. So right now my command line just says ps space aux space vertical bar space grep space root. And I'm going to then add, instead of another pipe, I'm going to add a redirect symbol. And what I'm going to do is, after that redirect symbol, which is the greater than, I'm going to say processes.txt. I'm going to run this. Now nothing displays to the screen. That's because redirect, instead of being a send this into another command, redirect tells us to send it to another device or file. And so in this case, I'm taking the output that would have gone to the screen, and sending it to a file. What's actually happening here is that by default, Unix has 3 streams that it sends information to. So I've got standard input, standard output, and standard error. Standard input is actually a stream that it gets information from. So standard input by default is my keyboard when I'm working on the command line like this. My commands are looking for input from the keyboard. Standard output is typically the screen or the terminal that I'm using here. And then standard error is also by default usually the screen. We can redirect any one of those or all of them. And by default, when you just use the greater than, we'll redirect standard output. So now instead of sending it to the screen, it's going to take the result of my command and send it to the file that I named, processes.txt. So if I list my files, I now have a file called processes.txt. If I look at the content of that file, this is now showing me the results of that command when I ran it. There's lots of reasons that we'd want to redirect the output of a command into a file instead of sending it directly to the screen, either for, saving it for later, being able to share it to somebody, creating something we can email, having something that is run at a specific time when we're not there and looking at the result at that time. Sometimes we'll have commands that actually create useful files for us that we then are going to redirect into a command. We'll get into that especially when we talk about shell programming. So for now, this is the idea behind that. So we're redirecting to a file. Some of the other redirection that we might use is I'm just going to use a very simple example here. I'm going to say echo space hello and send that into hello dot to actually greeting.txt. Now if I cat greeting.txt, it has the word hello. So I've echo just as normally if I just ran the command by itself, echo just displays whatever I typed right after it to the screen. So I'm saying instead of displaying the word hello to the screen, instead send it to a file, greeting.txt. If I say now echo hi and redirect that with a single greater than into greeting.txt, when I look at the contents of greeting.txt, you'll now see that the contents have been replaced. This is a very important thing to understand about that single greater than redirection. It destroys the contents of the file that you're sending the output to and replaces it with whatever you sent. If we would like to add on to it instead of destroying it, we can use two greater thans. So now I'm going to say echo space hello space two greater thans greeting.txt. hit enter. Now if I look at the contents of my greeting.txt, I have both of those results there, hi and hello. So the double greater than is an append rather than a replace. Our other redirections that are going to be important for us to know about, I'm going to say dir space ASDF. So dir is a command that works sort of like ls. It's not quite the same. It's actually it's the one that's used most often in DOS, but it basically does show us files and folders in a particular directory. But dir space ASDF doesn't exist, so I get an error message that gets sent to the screen. If I say dir space ASDF and give it a single redirect into a file called output.txt, I still see this text that comes to the screen. And if I look at output.txt, there's nothing in it. The reason is that the result of this command, since there was an error, is being sent to standard error instead of to standard output. So remember, we said we had 3 streams that we're connected to. We have standard input, where it's looking for input, standard output, where it's sending the output of commands, and then standard error, where error messages get sent to. Standard error gets redirected separately from standard output. So if I say dir space ASDF 2 greater than into output.txt, now that no longer gets sent to the screen. And if I look at output.txt, it contains my error messages. So that 2 greater than tells it to redirect stream 2, which is standard error. And that way, I can redirect my error messages from a particular command or series of commands into a file. That's very important to know. I can also redirect both of them at the same time. We're going to do that with the ampersand greater than output.txt. So this now works to redirect my output. If I have an actual valid argument here, so just dir space ampersand greater than output.txt, it also put my standard output into the file. Just as a contrast here, if I had dir with just 2 greater than to output.txt, it would only be sending my errors and not my output. So we've just looked at several different forms of redirection. A single greater than, this is the one you're going to use the most often, redirects standard output. 2 greater thans redirect standard output and append to a file instead of destroying it. A 2 and a greater than redirects standard error, and an ampersand and a greater than redirects both standard output and standard error. Redirecting standard input into a command is occasionally helpful. We're not going to look at that right at the moment, but that would be the less than sign instead of a greater than sign. So just know that that is possible. The idea of redirection is that we can take things from one location and send them into another. Now redirection ends a pipe. And so if we've once we've redirected our output, we no longer can send it into another command. In other words, this is not valid. To say ps aux grep Jeremy, or whatever your username is, redirect that to output, or to output.txt, and then send that into more. That doesn't work. We don't get to see anything to the screen. But sometimes we actually do want to see something on the screen and actually have the output go to a file. When we do that, we can use the command. So I'm going to do ps aux grep. I'm going to actually grep for root this time. I'm going to send a pipe to T, and I'm just going to send this to output.txt, and then a pipe to more. So the T command, T-E-E, when I use this, it actually sends my output to a file and keeps it as part of the chain where I can then send it to another command. So if I run this, I now see that my output shows up, that I can scroll through it with more. And the contents of output.txt also have that. So let's look at this command again. So ps space aux, so this is looking at all my processes, space a pipe symbol into grep root, so I'm looking for only ones that deal with root, space a pipe symbol into t output.txt, so I'm sending the output to output.txt, and then I have another pipe into more, so I'm continuing to send the output onto the more command. So this is basic usage of pipes and filters. There are certainly more advanced ways to use it, different commands that we'd use to tie it together, but this is the basic idea. So I hope that, that this helps you get this concept.